I'm Jacob's Quest, and tonight I just saw Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which, okay, we're gonna go ahead and get into it. I'm gonna do spoiler-free at first, and then I will go into spoilers and the whole thing. So, spoiler-free section first right now, just tell you the bare basics. Yeah, obviously, it was really good. It was a really good movie. I'm sure you've heard that plenty by now. It was amazing, and the visually and the humor and the drama and all of it worked really well. The wait was worth it. They did a really great job here. Now, you know, a lot of people are probably asking, is it better than the first one? Is it as good? It's hard to say. Part of me wants to say that it's definitely better than the first one because, you know, Miles from the jump is like a pretty fully formed Spider-Man, and then he comes across like even greater obstacles than the first movie. So like in that sense, I'm like, yeah, it's definitely better than the first one. But you know, it is, and this is something that I was kind of surprised by. A lot of people apparently did not know this, and hey, you know, look, a lot of people are not as plugged in to like movie news and stuff that directors are saying as some of us on the internet are. There's a lot of people that I went with, in fact everyone that I went with, like 4 people, did not know that they did not know that this was only part 1 of the ending, or at least this was like the middle part of a trilogy. They did not realize that this movie was going to end in a to be continued style cliffhanger. They did not know that, and I was surprised by that because I thought that that was general knowledge. I thought that everyone knew that going in, but no, apparently that was like a big deal because I saw like not just the people I was with, but a lot of people in the theaters even behind me go like, oh, that, what, really? No way, you know. So there is going to be that factor. So, you know, I don't feel like that's a spoiler because they were, you know, the producers and directors were saying this months ago, but like, yeah, be prepared when you go into this movie. This is not the full story. There's going to be a whole other movie that, you know, caps this, and that's going to be like the end of this trilogy. But yeah, so it is going to end in a to be continued. So, you know, be aware of that. I think knowing that going in might help you like brace for that, because apparently a lot of people were not braced for that. Funny enough, Fast X did the same thing, you know. So it's just kind of funny, like 2 major movies coming out, and both did a very similar thing that you don't see too much of nowadays. I feel like most movies do like you know, they're self-contained and then they have something in the after credits, but this one was straight up like, the story's not over. We're ending it here, but the story's clearly not over. So yeah, just be aware of that. But yeah, it was amazing and it was great, and they have so many references that like it's definitely a movie that you are gonna have to watch over and over again, and you're gonna have to keep on pausing it to get every single little reference they put in there, because stuff from every animated show and comic book and video game and even live action references, it's all here, you know, whether it's just audio cues or whether it's like straight up cameos where they're on screen and they're talking and everything. There's so much of that you're not going to catch everything. So if you're sitting there looking at the background, just staring at the background, just anticipate not being able to catch everything, because a lot of it goes by so quick and you're like, hold on, what was that? What I thought it was? I can't tell because it's gone now, but that, I think that was something that I recognize. So, you know, be aware of that also. And the same thing goes with the jokes. This is such a fast moving thing that even like small background animated jokes are just like, they're going by so quickly, and it all just like, and you're like, God, I wish I could pause this movie and rewind it for a second in the theaters, because like I know I just missed something, and a couple of people were laughing, so some people saw it, but I'm like, something just happened and I missed it, damn it, you know, we're already moving on, so you can't, you know, you can't dwell on that. But anyways, all this to say, obviously it's amazing, it's great. You know, as long as you're prepared for this to be a to be continued at the end, you're gonna have an amazing time. Like from an animation standpoint, from a Spider-Man lore standpoint, to just in general Marvel references, superhero stuff, it feels good to have a superhero win. You know, let's just say that. Like, after, you know, the MCU has had its trouble, the DC movies have had their trouble. it feels good to have like a win, you know what I mean? Like Sony's last movie was Morbius, so you know, just in general, it's like, oh, thank God, one of these superhero movies could actually still like not just deliver, but like really impact, you know, like, and the theater was packed, so yeah, this is gonna have a pretty big weekend, I think, because that theater was packed fully. There were so many people there. Yeah, it's gonna be pretty cool. So we're gonna move on to some spoilers here, okay? Some stuff was kind of vaguely referenced into the trailers, but I'm gonna move on to the full-on spoilers, and we're gonna talk about everything that happens. The first thing I want to talk about is the Spot. So the Spot is introduced, and you saw this in the trailer, where he's kind of a comedic villain. He does a lot of funny stuff. They have this really funny fight scene chase across New York City, and it's really crazy the amount of stuff they managed to do with his portal powers. You know, he creates these spots on buildings and on the ground and in the sky, and they're all teleporting different places as they go through them, and parts of them are going through the portals, and it's a whole thing. It's really entertaining. They got really creative with it. They, you know, this crew is just so good at their jobs. But yeah, his whole thing is that he wants to be taken more seriously as a villain than he is, because they even directly call him like, oh, you're just a villain of the week, you're just kind of a nobody, right? Which is kind of what you expect from the Spot, because I remember even when it was announced that the Spot is going to be the villain, a lot of people were like, wait, who, what? The Spot, you know? And they do address that directly, and they, you know, he has like this whole crusade where he gets a lot of power and he becomes like this really serious threat. And it happens in a way you don't expect, because he gets so powerful that there's a looming threat wherein Miles is able to actually see the future of what he's about to do. So he hasn't actually done the big looming threat yet, where he's gonna, and by the way, obviously spoilers, where he's gonna end up being the one who kills Miles's dad. But Miles can, you know, get like glimpses of the future because I guess they connected in some way. And so he knows that's going to happen, but the Spot hasn't actually done it yet. That's all going to be saved for part 3. So, you know, that's kind of where we leave the Spot. You know, he's got crazy amounts of power. He's going to like kill Miles's dad. And that's the end of the movie for him. Now, meanwhile, the real obstacle for this movie is Miles having to deal with what did they call them? I mean, he calls it the Spider-Verse, but, you know, they had some other, you know, connected web network type thing name for it. But basically, what we're dealing with here, and I'm kind of debating on how much the rules make sense here, but essentially, you know, it is all the Spider-Men are connected through the multiverse. They have like this web where their destinies are all connected, and basically there is a handful of, they call them canon events, which, you know, canon like a comic book, right? So yeah, canon. Anyways, these handful of canon events are supposed to happen in every Spider-Man's story. So they're supposed to lose their Uncle Ben type figure. They're supposed to lose a Captain Cop figure, and so on and so forth, right? Like each of them, no matter how different they all go through something similar, right? That's at least what we're told. And the idea that we're introduced here, along with, you know, the Spot kind of being a multiversal threat who's like, you know, gaining power as he goes through the multiverse. The idea is also that if these events change, you know, if one of these canon events don't happen, it starts to unravel that universe, you know. So it gets really interesting, and this is where we see a lot of cameos from different Spider-Men that we've seen in the past. We see Andrew Garfield's, you know, he's mourning the loss of Captain Stacy, the Gwen's dad, and it is footage from the movie. It's straight up like, yeah, it's exactly how you remember. Here's the footage from the movie. They reference the Uncle Ben death, so you see Tobey Maguire's Uncle Ben, like you see that scene play out. You know, they're just getting the point across of like, hey, audience, those movies that you saw, those also happened in this universe. And yes, along with that, they reference Doctor Strange and that kid and that nerdy kid, yeah, right? So like they're referencing direct MCU events. Also, at one point, when the Spot is kind of experimenting with his powers, he does go to the Venom universe because he ends up in that same little like a 7-Eleven type marketplace that Eddie Brock goes to in those movies. So, you know, at least according to Sony Studios, Sony Pictures, at least according to them, the MCU and Venom and, you know, all the people that we saw in No Way Home, all of those take place in the same multiverse. All of that is equally happening in this animated Spider-Verse. This is all the same multiverse. Like, they know about those events, which then leads me to question, like, okay, so the MCU is trying to do multiverse stuff right now. They're trying to do Kang and the, you know, Doctor Strange 2 and Loki and all these other multiversal stuff. So I suppose we're supposed to believe that the Spider-Verse and this whole council of Spider-Man, that they're all aware of these events and they're all connected. And, you know, it starts to, like, you kind of want to work out the logic of it all. And I don't know if it all actually holds up to scrutiny, because again, this is Sony Pictures saying this, not, you know, Disney-owned Marvel Studios saying this. And those two studios have not always completely lined up as to how things work. You know, infamously, we have the Morbius bringing Vulture over to his universe, and that just being really embarrassing for everybody involved. So yeah, I don't know what to think about that portion of it. It was really cool to see those cameos, and it was really cool to see the references. But it does, you know, if you sit there and think about it too much and you get really nerdy about it, you're like, okay, hold on. So Doctor Strange visit, and then they make incursions, but then over here, if Spider-Man doesn't do certain things, and then, you know, like, you start like breaking all this apart, you start tearing it all apart, and you're like, hold on, you know. Anyways, but to get back on track, so the big threat is that if one of these canon events in a Spider-Man's life is interrupted, then that universe starts to fall apart. And they might be able to contain it, but they might not be able to contain it. And basically this all leads up to the reason they did not invite Miles to this place was because Miles essentially is supposed to let his dad die, basically, because his dad is about to be the police captain, and in his version of the story, he's the one who's supposed to die, at least according to all their, you know, computers and stuff who are running all these systems. And like, yeah, that's your version. Your version of Captain Stacy is your own dad, who's going to be the Captain Cop here. Now, you know, this kind of brings into some other questions, because later they say, Miguel O'Hara says, oh, you were bitten by a spider from a different universe. The spider you were bitten by came through a portal from Universe 42, and because that spider left that universe and bit you in your universe instead, that means that universe 42 does not have a Spider-Man, and also that you, Miles Morales, you were never supposed to be a Spider-Man. There was never going to be a spider that entered, you know, that bit you. This wasn't supposed to happen. This was like an anomaly in the multiverse where some other random spider from a different multiverse like bit you, and that's not the way it was supposed to go in your canon. So that being the case, Miguel O'Hara is saying that, then I have to ask, if Miles Morales was never supposed to be a Spider-Man because, you know, his spider literally was not from his universe and wasn't supposed to happen, then why does he have to obey the Spider-Man canon events? Why does his dad have to die if he was never even supposed to be a Spider-Man in the first place, right? So like it starts, I think that is like the biggest thing for me, where I'm like, they came up with a couple of different rules here, and they came up with things that they're telling us that I'm not entirely sure mesh together. Like, does this actually make sense? Like, if he wasn't supposed to be a Spider-Man, then why would he be bound by those rules, right? So very confusing. You know, I'm sure this is all very intentional, obviously. Like, they're gonna settle all this up. But yeah, basically it's the big conflict of like, Miles doesn't want, obviously, to let his dad die, or to just let anyone die, because basically he saves some people in a different universe, and they kind of get on him about it, saying like, hey, you disrupted those canon events, and now that universe has like a big splotchy glitchy hole in it because things that were supposed to happen didn't happen and you messed it up. And Miles is like, so we're just supposed to let people die? Aren't we Spider-Mans? Aren't we heroes? We're not just gonna let people die. I don't care what universe they're from, right? Which, you know, of course, morally speaking, Miles is correct, but also logically, you're like, if that is how it works, again, because it might turn out that this was all a lie or a trick or something else entirely. You know, if they are right and that's how the universe works, and like saving the wrong person at the wrong time could disrupt their entire reality, then it is like, damn, I guess the right thing to do would be to just let them die, I guess, right? So it is like that kind of moral conflict you're having the whole time. But of course, Miles, being the young kid who's like, no, I can do both. I can save these people. I can save my reality. It doesn't have to be this way. So he runs away from all the other Spider-Men. And this is where I think some people might like, because you get a little bit of a dark turn with Gwen Stacy, Spider-Gwen, and Peter B. Parker, where, you know, they're still his friends and they're still trying to like help him, but also they kind of lured him to this place because they wanted to break the news to him gently of like, hey, you know, your dad has to die. It's for the good of the multiverse. But like, how do you say that to somebody, you know? So they fully believe everything they're being told, but also it's like, and then everyone's chasing Miles down and they're part of the group that's chasing him down. And then by the end of the movie, of course, they kind of change their minds and they kind of redeem themselves by saying, you know what, we're going to help Miles. You know, who knows what the rules actually are, but they're going to form, you know, Gwen ends up forming a team and she has a whole sequence with, you know, her world and her dad. And she, you know, she gets a lot more character work done to her. But basically, yeah, she ends up switching sides and be like, I'm going to help Miles save his dad or anything like that. And we get what you know, obviously this is going to be like a major portion of the last movie. I don't know how much this fits into it, but Miles tries to go back home by going in this machine that would send him back to his universe by, you know, checking his DNA. However, because the spider that bit him was not from his universe, when it checks his DNA, it sends him back to the universe that the spider came from, not him. So he's now in a world where there's an evil version of himself who is the Prowler, and his dad has died, and there's no Spider-Man. So he's basically trapped there, and I'm sure, you know, Spider-Gwen, they're all going to find a way to find him. They have a teleporter now, and she's put a team together, and that's pretty much where we get our to be continued, you know. So Miguel O'Hara is still out there trying to stop Miles from saving his dad, right? And so it really starts to become more like the Spot is more of a plot device, you know, than the true like enemy of this story, really, because really it's an ideological and moral conflict between him and Miguel O'Hara and all the other Spider-Man and where they stand with it all. That's really the main bad guy here, you know. It's just this conflict between them all and who's right and who's wrong, and, you know, can you trust Miguel O'Hara? Because, by the way, he's a vampire, and they don't really go into that. They show him do some vampire things, and he tries to bite one of the villains they capture once, and they don't show his full origin as to like how he got to be a vampire and and how he got to start traveling the multiverse. They explain that he accidentally destroyed a universe once, and so now he's trying to make sure that doesn't happen again. But as far as what his deal is, they don't really go into it. So part of me's thinking that there's more to this. Miguel O'Hara maybe not on the up and up. Maybe he's not even Miguel O'Hara. Maybe this is someone else entirely. There's all kinds of theories kind of left lingering there as to like what's his deal, what's going on. So yeah, there's that. But yeah, anyways, this was a great movie. Like, they just the humor worked. It is darker, and they do, like, you know, again, there's like a whole betrayal factor and people almost dying, and, you know, there's like a whole thing to it. And it just, I'm so glad that they took their time with this and they wrote this like a full developed and thought out story, and the animation is amazing, and all the different Spider-Man, they feel like characters on their own. They feel like you could easily make one of them the main Spider-Man of a movie and just follow that one, you know? They don't just feel kind of copy and pasted and be like, oh yeah, this one, you know. It feels thought out and care put into it. But yeah, that's Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. It's just great all around. It's really great. It leaves you in this place where it's like, okay, his friends are going to be back on his side, and they're all going to forgive each other, and they're going to help each other out, and they're going to have to confront Miguel O'Hara, and you're going to have to be like, so, you know, are you, you know, what's up with you, Miguel O'Hara? You're a vampire guy? Are you actually even a Spider-Man? Do you follow the same rules everyone else follows? Like, what's going on? But yeah, in any case, I just had a great time, a really great time. And again, just, I don't know, maybe tell your friends, hey, by the way, just know going in, this is gonna leave on a to be continued. So this is not the full story, because I do feel like that might be one thing that holds people back, because a surprising amount of people didn't know that already. I thought, you know, again, I thought this was a known factor, but to a lot of people it was not. So yeah, maybe tell people, I don't know. Anyways, let me know what you guys think about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. And yeah, I just had a great time. Also, real quick, I didn't talk about him at all, but Spider-Punk, he is awesome, and he's like the one guy that is fully on Miles' side the entire time. Like, he like helps him escape, and he's like, hey, use this, dude, get out of here, right? Because he's full on like anarchy punk, you know, like old school British punk, you know. So it's great. He's a great character. All right, cool. I'll see you guys later. Bye.